If you feel like a cash cow in the family court system, if you see the system, the guardian ad litem, the custody evaluator, the therapists, the parenting coordinator, if you see all of these roles and the system as a larger whole as designed to bleed you of funds, you're not wrong. But here is why. Not everyone has this experience in family court. Why do some people have that experience and other people get divorced and just move on with their life? Okay? Basically, there's two categories of divorces. There are the ones that are like, I don't know, a fender bender, and you move on. And then there are the ones that are like the 5-car pileup, the train wreck, you see it on the 5 o'clock news, and they just kind of seem to never end. There are like reverberating effects that go on and on and on. So what's the difference? What separates the individuals who have these different experiences? So briefly, if you look at soldiers who suffer trauma in war, or I should say suffer from post-traumatic stress syndrome, it's like 26% of soldiers. Why is it that 100% of soldiers have the same experience, say they all go into combat, 26% emerge with PTSD, and I'm not good at math, what's the other, 74% don't? And the answer is that the soldiers who experienced PTSD already had some kind of underlying framework for trauma. So from this, we can understand that if somebody is going through a really difficult divorce and they're really like triggered and emotionally reactive, that it didn't start with the relationship. There's an underlying pattern that was activated, and that is the first thing to realize. So back to this idea of being a cash cow. Think of money as energy and emotional reactivity as currency, okay? So perhaps you've already stumbled across the idea that narcissists, which pretty much everybody going through a divorce with a difficult partner identifies them as a narcissist. And for simplicity's sake, we're just gonna roll with this and say that it's true. So you hear a lot about narcissistic supply, and that narcissists can't generate their own internal feelings of worthiness or light, so they look to externals, other people, for their validation, right? They get supply from the kids' teachers at school, or the judge, or the mediator, or anybody who can give them attention, whatever. It's a big buzzword, narcissistic supply. Okay, so hopefully by now you've identified that you don't want to be the battery for that, okay? And that your reactions are what they thrive on, essentially. That's their life juice. That's their oxygen supply. They thrive on conflict. That makes them feel powerful if they can get a rise out of you. If you had siblings, or if you're the parent of children, when they fight, what do you tell them? If you would ignore him, he would stop doing that. But your reactions are fueling it, because that makes little kids, immature humans, feel powerful when through their actions they can elicit a response from another human. Now, this is a sign of an unhealed person, by the way. A person who is whole, who is healed, is like a jar that's full of coins. If you shake it, it's not going to make a noise. It is whole. It is full. It doesn't need anything. It doesn't look to the external world for fulfillment. Yes, of course, people who are whole need to eat and drink and breathe and sleep and all of that, but when it comes to their sense of well-being, their emotional stability, they don't look horizontally, they look vertically, or they look inward. Okay, fine. So that's just a side note. Be cautious of unhealed people, because they will look to you as the solution to their problem, which you as a human can never fulfill. It's a bottomless pit. And eventually, whereas, I mean, anyone who's ever been in a relationship with a narcissist knows, whereas at one point you were the source of their happiness and joy and love and, euphoria, you then conversely become the source of their rage. So again, you don't want to be a battery for anybody. This is codependency in a nutshell. So what now expand this out to the family court system. I hear many women complain, oh, it's not mafia, I don't know what the word is, organized, a racket, it's blood money. They are profiting off of people's anguish. And I'm not saying that that's not true. However, they can only do that, they can only push the buttons because the buttons are there. And when they push the button and the reactivity comes out, it's like a vending machine. Okay, again, you don't want to be a vending machine. You don't want to be the source. You want to be a channel, and you want to be a channel for good things. Again, that's a side note. So let's go back to this idea of attention. If you think about YouTube, social media, Instagram, Reels, all of this profits, it's real money, it's real dollars from your attention, okay? Even TV programs, from their inception, when people would give their attention to TV programs, that is how those programs were able to sell ad space, because the more viewers for a particular program, the more expensive it was for that program to, or for a advertiser to buy ad space. Fine. But this is so powerful if you can grasp this. Essentially, when you react, when you give something your attention, all right, and again, attention is monetized. YouTubers who make tons of money make the money because of the attention of viewers. They have lots of hours of view time, lots of subscribers. So, which is fine if it's good content, right? Energy is energy. Energy is in and of itself inherently neutral. It only becomes good or not good depending on the direction it's focused in, right? Like money can be used for good, and money can also be used for corruption and bribery and not good, things like that. So, fine. Okay, so if you've ever heard the phrase, where your attention goes, energy flows, or what you resist persists. Yeah, they're these catchy little cliche phrases, but they are so true. Because when you are resisting something, when you are shouting no at something, you're giving it energy. And essentially, you are buying what that thing is selling in a way, all right? You are purchasing the experiences of your life with your energy. So do you want to be a buyer or do you want to be a seller? Or, and if you are going to buy, wouldn't you rather be an investor? So what does it mean to be a seller? All right, most people, until they get the hang of this, until something breaks them open and they stumble upon a video about manifestation, spiritual law, Kabbalah, they are buyers. They are, and as children, we don't have a choice, okay? They are just observing the input of the world and reacting to it like an animal. Stimulus, response, stimulus, response, stimulus, response. But we don't want to be animals. We want to elevate. We want to be creators. We want to be human. Only humans were created in the image of God. And what is God? God is a creator. God is in control. God is a decider. God's a maker. So how do we do that? How do we emulate the aspects of the creator and create our own lives, write our own story? Up until now, our story has been written for us by our tikkun, by the movie that we were born with, that unless we choose to, through our free will, elevate out of that movie, is going to be our life experience, our life circumstances, right? So again, most of us until now have been accepting what was fed to us, giving our attention to it, and creating more of that. So I see women who are fighting for custody. Sometimes they've lost their kids and they have this belief system, and they very often we're not aware of these beliefs or conclusions that we've come to. So when we realize, when we become aware of some really distorted belief or idea, that's a cause for celebration, okay? Because we can't change anything until we know that it's there. So some of these women in their early stages are unaware that they have this belief that they're unworthy, that they don't deserve to be a mom, that they're not a good mom. And they probably have an abusive husband, ex-husband, who's been telling them, through verbally or through energetically, that they're not a good mom, right? Through their actions, through, maybe directly. And they're just absorbing this message. They're not pushing back. They're just taking it in. They're like sucking it in and making it part of their being, whether they're aware of it or not. And so once they have the belief system that they're a bad mom, and they're reacting to external messaging that reflects back to them to show them what they have going on internally, they're just perpetuating more of it, okay? Again, so some moms get divorced and it never even enters their frame of consciousness that they would lose the kids. Other moms, the husband as a form, and I say moms, but this isn't gender specific. It goes both ways, okay? I'm just statistically, it's about 80-20 male, female. Fine. So they internalize this message that they're not a good mom. The world reflects that back to them. And then they're like fighting for it. And their attention, they're fighting, they're resisting. They're fighting to show I'm a good mom, I deserve my kids. Except the message that they're sending out is all of their energy is focused on this belief. They're buying it, okay? So how do we change it? How do we become the writers of our own story rather than the one that's being pushed on us? So number one is we have to know that, so how do we sell? How do we be the writer? How do we sell our story to the publisher of the universe? Okay, ooh, that's a good one. That's really what manifestation is. We push back, we radiate. We think of your energy field as 1 trillion angels surrounding you, subatomic angels. And when you really believe something, these angels are going out and spreading the word to 8.5 billion people, okay? When somebody starts a business, why is it that two people start a business, maybe with the same set of circumstances in the same location, one is successful, one fails? It is simply because one business owner had the belief in themselves, and they made that belief, that internal story, more powerful. They invested more energy in that than whatever the 3D physical reality was trying to tell them, because the 3D will tempt you to test your faith, to test your conviction in that story. And the other person fails because they believe the messages they get back. When there are challenges, they go, oh, okay, I guess, I'm not meant to be successful, or I guess this business isn't going to succeed. They're buyers, they're consumers. We don't want to consume, we want to sell. And by the way, what happens when you sell? You get money. So, you want to transmit, and you can't lie a prayer, right? It's got to be genuine. You have to see yourself, or, play the character, play the role of the version of you that wins. My friend Lisa used to say, write the story where you win. And I found it kind of annoying because at the time I was like, well, I don't get to write the story. I'm not in charge. I'm not the decider. What I want doesn't happen, but that's wrong. If you have that belief, then the universe is so obedient, it goes, okay, that's what you believe, then that's going to be your experience. So when you feel like you're a battery, here's how you stop being a battery. No one will come to you if you're no longer giving them their energy, okay? The guardian ad litem, the third party, I don't know, the custody evaluator, the parenting coordinator. Also, by the way, the voice in your head. A lot of this, if not all of this, is a mirror showing you that before there was an external abuser, there was an internal abuser, okay? And eventually it manifested on the outside, heaven forbid. So when you hear like, oh, don't react in mediation, stay calm, keep your nervous system regulated, and you're like, that's so annoying. I don't want to hear how to keep my nervous system regulated. I don't even care about that. I just want to keep my kids, or I just want to have enough money to pay my bills, or I just want to lose the weight, or whatever. That's the path. Your nervous system is the gateway. So you do want to focus on your nervous system. Stop being outcome focused and be process focused. All right. So when you react, when you give away your energy, when you spend it, when you throw it away, essentially, on something you don't want, that's why that's dangerous. Instead, pause. Know that, think of it as like an annoying marketer or an annoying advertiser that's just screaming and clamoring and begging you for your money, begging you for your energy, going through all kinds of gyrations, the whole dance, the whole, all sorts of shenanigans trying to get your money. And you're like, no, that's my money. You're a clown. Why would I give it to you? It's the same way with your energy. You want to protect it and use it for what you want. You don't want to spend your money on that thing that's screaming and shiny in your face. You want to use your money to, I don't know, invest in the stock market, or get your nails done, or get a massage, or, invest in your children's education, whatever the case may be. Okay. So be a seller, not a buyer. And when you do give over your money, invest it. Like, let's say, that is one thing I will say about women who are at least early in this process. They don't invest in themselves. They've always given their energy away too freely to the external world trying to get their needs met. The 3D will never give it to you, honey. You have to give it to yourself. And that doesn't mean what you probably think that it means. So I don't know any women who are in these horrible nightmare narcissistic abuse cases who really will invest in, say, a coach, or if they're going to see a therapist, it's through insurance, right? Or it's maybe a therapist through the abuse shelter. And I'm not saying that any of that is wrong. I'm not saying that we shouldn't accept help when it's extended to us. But we have to move past that point. You don't want to spend 15 years as a client of an abuse shelter. I mean, look, I'm not judging anybody for their timeline. Everybody's got their own process. But like for me personally, I will say I want to keep moving forward every single day. Not judge myself at my pace. It's too slow. It's too fast. But just take a step forward every day, even if it's a small one. And so women who invest in themselves are telling themselves that I see my own value. And especially, there's really 4 areas that you can invest in and use to elevate. And this is so key because when you elevate your energy through these 4 areas, you naturally rise above the chaos, the mud, the craziness, and your circumstances will just naturally change because you have upgraded your life. You've elevated yourself, and that version of you might not have that low frequency vibration version of your ex or your kids or the courts or whatever, okay? That's why you hear in the manifestation world this phrase ad nauseum on repeat. There's no one to change but self. Doesn't mean you're bad. You just need to change your beliefs, your thoughts about who you are, your self-concept, what you deserve. So these 4 areas: physical, intellectual, spiritual, and emotional. Physical: get your nails done, get a massage, get a facial, buy yourself some new clothes. Intellectual: learn something, become more of a master of your craft. How can you be better at whatever it is you do? Spiritual: pray, learn about the attributes of the Creator. How do you align yourself with the light, right? How do you radiate and shine? How do you be a giver, not a taker? A true giver, right? Not somebody who's just giving, transactionally in exchange for getting their own needs met, but really to be a source of value for people, what they actually need, which a lot of times, a lot of people just need to hear the word no. That's being a giver, right? Boundaries, giving somebody boundaries is often what they need. Tough love, right? I mean, it's got to come from a loving place. I mean, look at, we instill boundaries and discipline within our children because we love them. Don't look both ways before crossing the street. That's a boundary. It keeps them safe, and boundaries help people to feel safe. So that's spiritual. Learn about astrology, learn about your individualized natal chart, meditate, et cetera, et cetera. And emotional: learn about your reactions, learn what triggers you, explore your feelings. Don't suppress them. Don't wallow in them. Just notice them. Whatever kind of emotional work, emotional, EFT, emotional freedom technique, tapping. There's many modalities. So pick one of those areas. Don't go crazy. Don't try to fix everything at once. Elevate that one area. Because if you think about your life as having infinite parallel timelines, right? And every time you elevate, you shift up to a slightly improved timeline. And in that timeline, it might look mostly the same, right? You have, the same kids, the same parents, the same coworkers, but they're slightly better versions of themselves. All right, it's not going to be dramatic. Our brain does not make big jumps, but our perception does not make big jumps. You can also downshift. When you fall, suddenly everything is a little bit worse, a little bit dimmer. And you can go all the way up to a total fantasy dream life. Not to say that there won't be challenges. There's an endless opportunities to elevate and improve, but there's also a total nightmare at the bottom and everything in between. And by the way, let's say something you want is, 27 levels up. So the only way for you to get there is for challenges to start coming so you can elevate through the challenges until now you're a match, you're in alignment with that timeline in which that version of you, 27 levels up, HANA 2.0, HANA 27.0, like the Apple operating system, that feature is available with that upgraded operating system. So always don't try to solve problems. That's draining. If you feel drained at the end of your day because you've been spinning your wheels trying to figure out how you're going to solve, get your ex to agree with you on this, get your kid into this sport, get this amount of child support, pay this bill, afford this, take your kids on vacation, whatever the case may be, and you're like drained, stop doing that. Give that over to the universe and focus on elevating your own energy. If all you have right now is questions, then you need to elevate your energy to the world of answers, because all the answers were prepared before you even had the questions. The cure was prepared before the disease existed. The solution was prepared before the problem existed. All we have to do is reveal it. I had this epiphany recently about money. A lot of people fail in business, fail at making money because they think that what they are doing is going to result in the money. I have to do XYZ to get ABC. But that is not the case. Once you identify what it is you want, what your goal is, say it's $20,000 a month, then the actions that you do are simply revealing what you've already created. Created is not something you do in this physical world of the five senses, this see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it world. That's, I don't know what that is. That's action. Creation is on a higher level. We create in the mind. Like when you say somebody's creative, you're talking about the way they think. You're not really talking about what they create. I mean, we're all creating. Most people are doing it by default. But like a left-handed person, we often say that left-handed person is creative because the left hand corresponds to the right side of the brain, which is the infinite, boundaryless, flash of insight, wisdom side of the brain. Whereas the left side is about boundaries, right? The right side of the brain doesn't know the difference between you and me, between a banana and a movie. But the left side of the brain gives things form. It takes infinite potential, like sperm, and gives it shape and form, like a fetus. Okay, that was a little bit of a graphic example. But yeah, male and female, that's everything is really about balancing those energies. Okay, fine. So that's a topic for a different video. Polarities, balancing of energies, supposed opposites, the tension between polarities. Okay, fine. Where were we? Creation. So you create something like Mozart. When he received the inspiration for a symphony, the whole thing was there in his head. The only thing he had to do was reveal it by writing it down. Or Michelangelo, the sculpture of David, he had the marble. All he had to do was reveal the friend within, as he called it, by chipping away. So if you imagine you've created, say, a business or an amount of money or a set of circumstances, a relationship, whatever it is, the perfect body. So imagine you've created that in your mind and it's covered by a sheet or something. And you're going to discover it. You're going to reveal it. Reveal. Discover, uncover it. You whip the blanket off and there it is. It was already there. Creation is finished. That's another buzz line we hear in the manifestation world. Creation is done. It's done. It is done. But you still, it's like your food is already plated up in front of you, but you still have to pick up your fork and eat it. It took me a long time to get this. Maybe you'll get it a lot faster than I did. So the actions that you go through to build the business, to network with clients, they don't directly result in the money. It looks like it, but that's the mask of the creator. God wants plausible deniability. He is running the world, but like a master chess player, he's maneuvering the game, but he just wants us to think that it's us. But again, the master chess player, you can be the best chess player in the world, but if you're up against the universe, which is the best chess player, it's always going to get you into the spot it wants you to get into. Okay, that's another topic. But so what you're doing, but you have to know that these actions are like slowly pulling the blanket off of the creation, of the statue, of the business, the relationship, whatever it is. But you still have to do the actions because the actions shape us until we're a match to what it is that we want. They are there to sculpt us, to improve us. So there's a story about a huge boulder, and a man was asking, God, what is my mission in life? What am I supposed to do? And God says, you see that rock? I want you to go over there and push on it. So the man does. And he pushes on it and he pushes on it. Years go by and he's pushing. And finally he says to the creator, I have been pushing on this rock for however long, X number of years, and it has not moved an inch. And God said, I didn't tell you to move the rock. That's my job. I just told you to push on it. And the guy's like, well, push on it. Why am I pushing on it if I'm not going to move it? And he's like, look at you. Look how beautiful your form has become, how sculpted your muscles have become from pushing on this rock. Look how you've developed this tenacity, this faith, this determination, this consistency, this perseverance, all of these positive attributes, how you've built your character. And that's the work, right? It's like, people say when they're going through fertility treatments, just relax and you'll get pregnant. And women think that's crazy. They're like, well, you're telling me I can't get pregnant until I relax, but I can't relax until I get pregnant. But that is the key. It's how would you feel if you had what you wanted and now you're a match to that? That's why the rich get richer and the poor get poor, because if you're focused in lack and thinking, I don't have it, so I have to get it, what you're pulling in is more circumstances of lack. Whereas if you're like, I already have it, I just have to reveal it, right? Like, let's say you have an inheritance and it's yours, $10 million. You have it, but all you have to do is sign all these papers. So sign the papers. It's yours, you have it, but you have to sign the papers. That's what it's like, the work we do in our businesses. Or even like working out, getting fit. You have the vision of the fit version of you, but you have to reveal it, which in a way makes total sense, because like you're burning away the fat through your strength training, through your cardio, and revealing the beautiful sculpted body underneath. You're both getting rid of the unwanted while building the wanted. Burning fat, building muscle. So, let's make this practical. What does this mean for us? Think of somebody. It could be a fictional character. It could be, it could just be a version of you that you want to be, a new identity. And how would she act? How would she carry herself? What would her expectations be? I can share with you, I did this the other day. I needed to ask somebody for something, and old me would have begged, manipulated, over-explained why I needed it, been fearful that this person would say no, thought that my actions, the way I asked, if I could find the perfect words, would be the key to getting what I wanted from this person, and ultimately felt draining, and then felt resentful at this person because it was so exhausting to have to deal with them and just, explain to them why they should do what I wanted because it was the logical thing. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, no. So-and-so, a particular hero of mine, heroine, Shiro, if you will, she would just ask and not be attached to the result, because if the answer was no, she would just roll her eyes and then do it herself and trust that she was supposed to do it herself because there was something she was supposed to see or experience within that process. Anyway, so I embodied her energy. I asked the question, and the answer was, oh yeah, no problem. Oh my gosh, because I attracted who I was being, not what I was doing. All right? You don't do to get. That is giving for the sake of receiving. That is transactional and yucky and doesn't work. We be, whatever it is, whoever we want to be. We embody that energy, and you do it now. An overweight person sees their dream body, decides they can achieve it, and they be it. Nobody else sees it. There's no physical evidence, but they have that vision. That seed, that idea is planted, and as long as they continue to nourish it with their dreams, it will grow. By the way, the word in Hebrew for dreams is cholam, chet, lamed, mem. And the word for bread is lechem, lamed, chet, mem. Same letters rearranged, which tells us that our dreams nourish us. Our dreams are fuel for the soul or our manifestations, just like bread is fuel for our body. So persist in your faith, in your dream, in the unseen, nourish it, get excited about it. And on that same note, the word in Hebrew for peace is shalom, shin, lamed, mem. Interesting. Cholam is almost the same, but instead of the chet, it's the shin. Okay, fine. Shalom. The word for wholeness, for being whole or complete, I should say, is shalom. So when we are whole, when we have no lack, we are at peace. And that is why regulating your nervous system, achieving peace, inner peace, relaxation is the key. It's not just for its own sake. That's the buy-in. It's like, oh, fine, the price I have to pay is peace in order to get what I want. Yes, but you have to reverse engineer it. You can't wait for the circumstances that you want and then feel peace. You can't say, oh, I'll breathe the sigh of relief when I know my kids are safe. Breathe the sigh now. That's certainty. That's trust. That's your vessel. That's your kli. That's your cup that the fulfillment, the blessing can come into. That is, and also, by the way, like, imagine a person is hungry. They have lack. Their stomach is empty. So they are out there looking for food, right? If they were satiated, then they would have peace. Then they would have wholeness. Shalom. So that's what we want to do. I can share with you, there are things I've achieved in my life that I thought were by accident or lucky. But when I looked back and I realized what I was doing in the months or years leading up to achieving that particular circumstance, a certain house, a job, even the removal of an annoying barking dog in my life, I realized that as I was falling asleep, and I was doing this at 19, 20, 20s, 30s, as I was falling asleep, I was relaxing myself, calming myself, getting myself into a relaxed state to fall asleep by imagining this circumstance that I wanted. And I created that. So, and I did that on accident. When I was a cop, when I first saw the woman who was my inspiration, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what I want to be. I want to do what she does. I want to be what she is, not be her. Obviously, we don't want to idolize people and try to emulate them. We want to be ourselves. But that role, being a law enforcement officer, I instantly saw myself as it. And I embodied that energy, even though I knew I had years of school and it, the civil service testing process took about a year to complete. I just knew I was there. And I just already started seeing the world through those eyes and breathing it in. And I got the job. And I was one of thousands of applicants applying for like 5 available positions. And I didn't know anybody in the police department. I didn't have an in. There was no I couldn't even bench press the amount I had to bench press, but through some fluke, some weird math calculation, which was obviously not the cause, it was the effect, one of the circumstances that was a cooperative component in the machine of my manifestation, the scorekeeper calculated my bench press percentage wrong, like a universal system versus free weights or something like that. It doesn't matter. The point is, I manifested things on accident because I was like excited about them. I must have believed in them on some level, even something I didn't really believe was possible, but decided I would just fantasize about it to calm myself down. Ended up happening. So I guess the caveat to this would be careful what you wish for. And one more thing I want to add is, I really need to make another video on this, but do not go into this process of divorce wanting revenge, wanting to prove a point, wanting to punish. Yes, you were abused, fine. But, many women who have experienced narcissistic abuse know the term reactive abuse, which is essentially revenge, okay? That's not your job. And that will always backfire. It's like, 2 wrongs don't make a right. We know this intellectually, but on a really deep level, if you are, put it this way, you cannot fight darkness with darkness. Narcissism is darkness, yes. But if you respond at that level, if you roll around in the mud with them, you both get dirty. I mean, you know this with your kids, right? Again, 2 wrongs don't make a right. The only thing that will cure darkness is light. So what is the light? What we spoke about, elevating yourself, getting closer to the light, elevating yourself intellectually, spiritually, physically, emotionally. And even if you're wishing bad on somebody, you're wishing for karma to get them, you are actually sending them darkness. You are sending them energy. And as that energy passes through you on their way to them, it curses you or touches you. You become like a conduit or a channel for toxicity. So it's like if you had a pipe and you poured sewage through it, the inside of that pipe is going to become coated with sewage on the way the sewage, as the sewage travels to its final destination. So, and not only that, you are sending them energy, and that energy, yeah, it could harm them. It could, but it could also, depending on their state of consciousness, bless them. So reverse engineer it. For number 1, bless your enemies. I forget the source, but there's a saying: if your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat, and if he is thirsty, give him what to drink, something like that. What that means is when you become a source or a channel of light and you send that to your enemies, you're elevating yourself. So what will happen? Either they will also elevate and become your friend, okay? Or they will self-destruct because the energy, the way it hits their vessel, okay, this is way deeper than I meant to go into in this video. I might edit this out. Or all of the good that was meant for them, if they are wishing harm upon you, will go to you. Okay, I need to make another video about that. Actually, there is a book called You Are What You Hate, A Spiritually Productive Approach to Enemies by Sarah Yehudit Schneider. I highly recommend that for anybody entangled with a narcissist, because let's face it, if you are entangled with a narcissist and they are trying to hurt you, that is your enemy. An enemy is defined as somebody who wants to harm or harass you. And I don't care if you have kids together. I don't care if you gave him 20 years of your life and kept home for him and everything else. If he's trying to hurt you, that's an enemy. And this book does not tell you how to fight enemies, how to engage in war, whether, you choose which path to choose. It just helps you understand them in a spiritually productive way. Okay, that's a tangent. I did not mean to go on this long, but all of this is really good information for becoming the deliberate creator of your life, not the regurgitator, not just seeing, reacting. No, cutting off that feedback loop and start pushing out into the world, sending to the trillions of angels that surround you. The Talmud says over every blade of grass, there's an angel that strikes it and demands that it grow. And that's true for a blade of grass. How much more so for a human being? Imagine the spiritual network available to a human being, supporting them. So leverage that. Believe in it, project that, expect it. Know that the work that you're doing, that the outcome is done. Your steps, your filling out the forms, making the phone calls, that's just the process of revelation, of discovery, of the heroine, Shiro, taking the steps, doing the action that the audience is cheering for her. And the outcome, how it comes about, that's a mystery. The how and the when, that's not up to you. The what is up to you. And even if you do the wrong actions, do not get perfectionistic about this, by the way, the creator will shape them into the right outcome. That will be your spiritual GPS. Like you make a wrong turn and then, I don't know, her name, Magellan comes on or whatever, Waze or whatever the voice is now and says, recalculating. Okay, fine. I hope this was helpful. Your energy is your currency. That's the bottom line. That's your money. Don't be a cash cow. Don't be a battery. Keep it for yourself. Invest it. Invest in yourself. Love yourself. By the way, a woman who invests in herself and her own consciousness, that creates an aura. She becomes like immune to abusers, predators, manipulators, because they target people with low self-worth, people who are looking for something external to fulfill them. Okay, it is a magnetic attraction. It is a match. Yes, the narcissist is looking for external supply, but the victim was also looking for something to fulfill her that was physical, and thought that the narcissist was going to make her happy. The love, the marriage, that was going to fulfill her. So even though it manifests differently, the underlying lack is present in both cases. Okay. I love you. Thank you for watching. If you want more, if you want to go deeper, head on over to my website, thebookofyou.life, and you can apply for a one-on-one coaching session or package. There are other resources there. I am always adding classes. I am going to be adding a class on a text-based class on You Are What You Hate, a spiritually productive approach to enemies by Sarah Yehudit Schneider, and so much more. There's also pro se coaching if you want to represent yourself in court, in family court. And again, I'm always adding new content. There's an email list with tips and tools on how to go to the seed level of reality, the subatomic level, the energetic, angelic network, versus shadow boxing the manifestations, which are just old news. That's just the residual. The 3D cannot help you. Even if you can bang things into place temporarily, it will not satisfy you in a long-term way. It will be temporary gratification with side effects versus lasting fulfillment, lasting sustainable peace. That's what we want. We don't want temporary, we want eternal. We don't want more, we want everything. And we don't want side effects. We want to be proactive, not reactive. There's always pain. You can have the pain or discomfort up front or on the back end. Okay. Like I said, I have lots of content. All right. I love you. See you in the next one. Bye.